One of the biggest questions I get asked all of the time is why aren't you just automatically doing your UVs instead of manually cutting things? Because it's time consuming and you know, nobody really wants to do that. So I wanted to show you guys exactly why I don't use auto unwraps, because for me, I feel like they create more work when there is something that I'm actually trying to build out and go for. And it's something that you'll kind of consistently see through many online forums, whereas like the general idea is automatic is either a really quick way to get to kind of a messy UV that you can put back together, or it's just a lazy way to kind of skip over the UV. But the reality is that we want to have as much control over our UV as well as our texel density, and manually doing it just allows me to have better control over how my texel density is actually set up. So let's take a look at this real quick. I'm going to select these three objects and show you. Same configuration here. We have my manual unwrap that I did in Rhizome, my Maya automatic unwrap, and my Blender automatic unwrap. Right off the bat, the biggest issue that I have is this. For whatever reason, automatic unwrapping always just takes chunks out of your mesh and then just throws them at the bottom, and then you have to figure out where they go. You have to sew them back into the model, and it's more of a headache than it really needs to be. This is a really good example right here. This object should have another fin off to the side, but it doesn't, because that fin has been split off. Likely this is part of it, but there's more parts of it down here. This is why automatic mapping is just kind of a mess. It's not the best way to get the cleanest result. And it's one of the reasons why I just don't use it. Me starting off and using this is just going to get me to a point where I have to go back through and figure out where things go and basically put a puzzle back together, when I can just spend the time to go and manually select my seams. Because in reality, an object like this takes maybe 5 seconds to UV. It really isn't that complicated. This is a pretty simplified example of this, but it's really not that difficult. And we can see in the Substance Painter, it doesn't really matter, right? There's no difference. The difference here is that at this point, we have issues with things like texel density. And say I'm having an issue where I need my texture to be a little bit higher resolution, so I need to give it a little bit more texel density. I just have to select the shell and scale it and figure out how big I want it. Here, I have to find all the little pieces, make sure they're all the same scale, make sure everything's adjusted properly, and just go through this whole kind of unnecessary process where if I had just spent the time to manually select my seams and cut it and then unwrap it, I'd be good to go. The days of like manually projecting every single face are pretty long gone as far as like most 3D software is concerned. So the reality is like it's really not that hard to UV anymore. It's more so just figuring out where you need to put your seams so you can have a clean unwrap while still understanding where your UV shells are laying.